What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hello, welcome to the Lead Counsel Podcast. This is your host, Tom Tona, here with Juliet Accomando, my good friend and marketing coordinator. How are you, Jules?
Doing good. How are you?
All right. I'm good. I'm very good. So we have a very special guest today I'm super excited about. We have one of my favorite people in the world. My legal administrator in my office, Janira, who quite honestly is probably one of the biggest needle movers ever in my career, was having Janira, who started out with me almost 20 years ago. Her birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Jay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And you're celebrating an anniversary this week, right?
Yeah.
How many years you been with me?
19 years on the 9th.
19 years.
Biggest needle mover.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have Janira on is, in all candid honesty, she has been one of the most, if not the most significant needle mover in propelling the business from where we started out in 2001 to today. And, you know, we're cranking hockey stick type growth again. And I've just been blessed to have Janira in my life. And I'm super excited to have her on the show, tell her story, talk about what a true legal administrator is and does for the law firm. So, Janira, what's going on?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Super excited to have you on. So do me a favor. I normally don't run into full bios, but I think your story, one, is worth telling. And I find it kind of funny at the same time. We were joking about it this morning. So tell everybody how we met, you and I, and when we met, etc.
So we met back in 2004 in the Restroom. Not us personally, but I was met every day with your paralegal at the time. We kept talking every day in the bathroom. Tom's office, his firm shared office space with a law firm that I was working at the time. We were all on the same floor. There was a common women's bathroom in the hallway. So we always used to talk. She told me, come in one day, we're hiring, come in for an interview. I went in, I got hired. From that point on, I had to sneak up the back stairway so I wouldn't run into my ex-boss in the hallway. So that was interesting. And that's kind of how we met. So now we always joke around saying how, you know, when people ask Tom how he met me, he says in the restroom.
I always joke around and say, I was telling somebody this morning, I met her in the bathroom.
I know.
Right?
And I only heard that story for the first time the other day.
Yeah.
And it cracked me up.
Yeah, we were in a multi-story high-rise, and she was talking to my legal secretary or paralegal at the time, and she was just unhappy where she was. And so I was like, bring her in. And it was such a crazy turn of events because you and I have been on some roller coaster ride together, and I can't imagine doing this with anybody else but you as my right-hand integrator. And we've since built out a pretty formidable leadership team, and I'm really excited about it. And again, I owe so much to you, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
So give us the trajectory that you've taken since you've been in the firm, where you started out to where you are today.
So I got hired as a legal assistant. I was there for a couple of years in that role, obviously. Then I moved on to eventually being a paralegal with the firm. Did that for years. And then from there, we kept growing. We started hiring staff. Then I was kind of doing paralegaling and some office management work. And then eventually led into a full-time office manager role. From there, it grew to a legal administrator role. And now we're implementing EOS throughout the firm. And now it's kind of leaning into, taking on the integrator role as well now.
Right. You are de facto always been my integrator. It's just nice to have a formal title to it.
Yeah.
So you went kind of fast. So I want to just break that down again for people. One, your educational background is something that, you know, just as a heads up to a lot of attorneys that might be listening to this, I didn't realize the amount of education you had that would actually benefit growth within the firm. So talk about what you went to school for and the degrees that you had prior to jumping into the field.
So I have a business administration degree, associate's business administration degree, specializing in legal. And then I have a bachelor's degree in business management.
Right. So when you had that combination background, and I didn't even realize it at the time as we were growing together, right? So starting out as a legal assistant, then you went to the paralegal, and then you talked about a time when you were paralegal / office manager, which happens in a lot of firms. Their first employee typically graduates to office manager. You actually had training and education in it. Talk about when you fully became full-fledged office manager and what had to happen to get you there.
You guys had a fight to keep you off files.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
So I have some control issues and I wouldn't let go of the actual work part of it. I think everybody always has that fear that someone can't do it the way you do it. So that kept happening for a while, even though we had a great paralegal in the office who really knew her job and was able to handle it. So I went away on vacation. I came back. Every file was out of my office. And I was told if I ever touched a file again, I'd be fired. So from that day forward, I never touched another person's file ever.
And I meant it only because I knew what I needed from you at the higher level. And I truly believe now that you can't have people that are in the weeds operationally and managing / leading, right? So you had such control issues. I mean, man, in one sense, that's a blessing, right? Everybody here who's on the leadership team has those control issues. They take such pride in their work. That's you, that's Juliet, that's Carissa, that's Alicia. They take such pride in their work, and Jen as well, that they don't want to let go of the control, but then they can't do the higher level stuff. So I've always had to force that issue with everybody that's on the leadership team, right? So then you went from office manager to legal administrator, probably when we crossed 20 employees, I think. And then you went into the highest level with integrator, which has just been an amazing ride. So describe the difference between an office manager and a legal administrator at the point that you're at now and your understanding of those two positions.
So I think the office manager, they kind of just run the day-to-day stuff. They order office supplies, they do payroll, they'll help assist with any kind of issues that occur in the office, whether it's operational, human resources, anything like that. Legal administrator is more like where they have higher fire authority. They don't really have to report on decisions they make and stuff they do without the office. So like I'm able to do things when Tom's not here without checking with Tom, that type of thing. So they have a much higher level of authority and ownership of their role as opposed to an office manager who constantly has to check in, with the managing partner or something like that.
Right. Now, okay, so let's talk integrator for a second, right? Because now to me, you're at the pinnacle of where you've ever been. Describe the integrated role. And for integrated, because you said EOS so fast before, it sounded like EOS. So we're doing the entrepreneurial operating system. That's from Gino Wickman's book, Traction. And it's EOS is short for entrepreneurial operating system. In their parlance or their nomenclature, I'm in the visionary role, right? I'm at the top and my sole job is vision, culture, etc. Talk about your role and your duties as an integrator.
So the integrator, basically what's supposed to happen, and we're new to EOS. We started rolling it out in the beginning of this year, so we're still learning the process and learning all that. We're doing it at the upper level leadership management stage right now. And then hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be rolling it out to the entire firm. But ideally what's going to end up playing out is Tom will stay in the visionary role, obviously. Everything he does will filter through me, and it'll get to the point where nobody should be directly speaking to Tom at any point, whether it's work-related, only on a personal level if they're talking to him in general conversations. But otherwise, everything else through the firm should filter through me. They meet with me. They tell me whatever issues we have going on, good, bad, the ugly. And then I take all that to Tom. Me and him do what's called same-page meetings. And that's where I kind of go through everything with him. And then whatever feedback he gives me, then I roll it back out to the employees on the firm or the team members of the firm.
And we've already started doing that, right? So without even sitting down formally and doing it, we've been doing it.
Yeah,
and
honestly, that's how I remember. Like, since I started, I feel like Jay has always been like your right hand. So anything that anybody had, like, it's always go to Janira, and Janira will then hopefully like go to Tom and work everything out. But Janira's, to me, like since starting here, has always been like the manager that everybody goes to with everything.
And she is, right? So that's by purposeful design. So I can do what I'm charged with, right? So, but this show is about her. So I really want to dig down on this because in conversations with Patrick Wilson, so many firms are missing a Janira. Or Mike Morris from Fireproof has a guy named John Knockhazel, who's his integrator, right? A fantastic integrator is crucial to be able to scale a firm. And often the visionary doesn't even realize what they're missing, right? They don't realize that piece. I'm lucky. We're lucky because we found each other, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm strong at, you don't want to do. And what you're great at, I can't do, right? I just can't do it the same way.
Right. I don't think we ever even knew that I was an integrator until EOS.
No, you just took on the role.
We start reading, right? Like reading everything about it. And we were like, well, this is exactly what I do already. Like who knew it had a name to it?
I know, it's fitting.
Yeah, and I think part of why we work so well together is our discs. But I also think that the way you've grown, you started with us in 2004, right? So part of the amazing thing about your growth is it's coincided with my personal growth, right? I don't think ego-wise, I was in a place where I could be like, Janira, you are to run everything in my absence until today, right? The young me, I was full of piss and vinegar, whatever the saying is, but the young me could have never let go of the vine enough or trusted enough in that. And that's fear-based, I think, right? I think it also comes with age. Similarly, in your 20s, you probably could not accept that level of responsibility. So we kind of grew together without even realizing what was going on, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I think that makes it work is your disc is very similar to mine. We talk about the disc personalities all the time, right? So we have a same style approach to things. And I also have a tremendous trust in you. So I don't have to worry anymore, right? You can make hires without me. You can handle disciplinary issues. We share one brain and we have for 20 years, 19 years, right? Which is kind of crazy. And you said that to me a week ago, 2 weeks ago. You're like, the integrator and the visionary should share one brain. And we've been doing that for so long. Right? Yeah. Somebody described you today as my office wife. And it's funny because you're as close to my family as any relative would be.
Right.
I think one of the things that we should talk about is the fact that we are able to have that personal relationship, right? Like you were at my wedding, you were at my daughter's christening, you've been at family events, I've been at family events for you. I attribute that to certain things, but what do you attribute us to be able to do that successfully where we have an outside personal relationship, but a really great working relationship?
Really just boundaries, I think. And I think that's something we had to learn as well, or maybe myself learn, from when I first started to now. Just knowing like I come in, I still have a job to do, even though we can talk outside, we can joke around, we can do this. It all comes back to my job. Like I'm still only as good as whatever I produce or whatever I did the day before. And I don't blend those lines. I don't, X for different treatment than other team members here. I have to follow the rules just like everybody else, especially when I help create most of them. I can't go ahead and, you go rogue. So I really think boundaries is what keeps everything kind of flowing. Because I know once I come in, I walk through these doors, it's all business.
Yeah, I that's the one thing I would attribute to, right? Like, it's tough being in my role to the extent that, one, there's a reason they say it's lonely at the top. The higher you go, the lonelier it gets. And so it's challenging, right? Because other people in Janira's position do separate sets of roles, or they do, and they put the owners in tough positions. I've heard this from Patrick talk about it. And I think that you and I having a very open dialogue with each other, very truthful, direct kind of relationship has been amazing because we can say anything to each other in an unemotional way and not take it personally. You want to talk about where that comes from?
I don't know exactly.
All right. So we didn't always have the working relationship we have, right? There was just a lot of friction between two hard-headed people for probably 10 years, right?
Yeah.
For probably 10 years where we would come in, it's a smaller office. If we weren't getting along, I wasn't getting anything done that day. And it was palpable because we just wouldn't talk for 8 hours straight, which is kind of crazy because it was just me and her in the office.
And it was a tiny office, our old office.
Yeah. So when I say hard-headed, we're very similar. We're very competitive, high sense of urgency. So we hit a point where the business was growing. I was coaching with Patrick Wilson, who I talk about all the time. Patrick's like, look, I'm pinpointing a need you have, and it's going to be tough for you to hear. You need a higher level of somebody to delegate to, somebody to work under you. And Janira is currently in that role.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you got a great eye for talent and a great eye for investing in talent. What do you want to do? And I've known Janira since she was a kid. You were like, in 2004, you were in your 20s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she was your age, younger than you. So I said, look, let me have a frank, honest conversation with Janira about what you're telling me. Because he basically wanted me to hire somebody over her if she was not going to step up. So we went out one day. I think we went out to lunch or something. And I said, look, we've kind of hit our point. Something has to happen. We're at a fork in the road. And a lot of times I have those conversations. I think I had one with you too, Jules.
Yeah.
I said, we're at a fork in the road. I'm being told the business needs this being a higher level of operational management and leadership from my second in command, or it could be something with marketing where I need this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was frank with Janira. I said, and I'm being told I should look outside the organization unless you want to take on that role. And the one thing that Janira wrote up in her bio, which said that she wanted people to know, is that she's always up for a challenge and she doesn't like to lose. And I think that competitiveness is what's gotten us to this point. Because I said to Janira, I need a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm being told I got to put somebody over you, or do you want to try to do it? What was your answer?
I said I could do it. I'd do whatever it takes to do it.
Right. And she did say that. She said, I'll do whatever it takes. Now, a lot of people say that to me. I always use a famous example of a guy who was getting divorced. He's like, I'll do anything to save my marriage. And his wife wanted to stay. And I said, all you got to do is go for therapy. He said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I said, well, you just said anything. Well, which is it? So Janira said that and she meant it and she worked her ass off. So what did that look like, Janira?
Going back, I joined the Association of Legal Administrators, started taking classes online, started reading a ton of books, just books after books after books. Tom would recommend a ton of them, and I just kept reading. And I started doing one-on-one coaching with Patrick Wilson as well. And I think from there, it just kept growing. And now I'm just constantly looking for new things to learn and new things to do and classes to take and that type of stuff. So
let's talk about this in micro bites because I think it's important, right? One, talk about the specific educational achievements you've accomplished since starting to work. After your formal education with school, the time investments involved, the cost investments involved. Talk about that stuff.
Like from ALA?
Everything. You've been studying your butt off now for years on different things and the different certificates you have. So talk about all of that because when people listen, the people that I think make up the audience that listen to the podcast pretty regularly don't understand what it could look like to have a Janira. They just see you now and go, oh, Tom got lucky. No, right? How much time, money did you invest? Did I invest in you? Mm-hmm. To get you to the point of all the certificates you have in HR, in all the different areas you have, and that I continue to invest, right? So talk about the time investment you're making, the money investment I'm making in you to do that.
A ton of it. So anytime, Tom's very supportive. So anytime I say, oh, ALA, Association of Legal Administrators has a convention coming up, he's like, all right, book it, go. Mm-hmm. So I've gone to the ALA conventions. I have signed up for classes that usually run 12 weeks at a clip. You take the class. Then you have to take a test afterwards. And they're pretty hard. They're not easy. The last one I took, I want to say, was like about 100 questions. You get 2 chances to take it. And it's pass or fail. They don't tell you what you got wrong. So you have no idea what questions were right or not. So that one I had taken probably about a year ago. That was for legal management in financial. So I got a financial specialist certificate for that. Then I had taken another course through ALA that was for human resources. So that one I actually I took it a while ago, but you got a year to take it. And we've been so busy integrating EOS that haven't gotten to it. So when I was recently out, I said, all right, I got to start restudying for this. So I started going through all my notes, redoing it this past week. And I took that test. That one wasn't as hard as the last one. That was only 50 questions, but same thing. It's still, you get 2 chances to take it. It's pass or fail. Luckily, I did pass it on the first chance. So that one I did get legal management human resources specialist certificate for that one. I also recently last month just went down to Dallas for EOS Integrator Mastery Class. So that was a great learning experience in its own. So that one, you graduate from that as well. So your Integrator Mastery Class certificate for that. And then I just joined their IMF Forum, which is Integrator Mastery Forum. You go down to Dallas quarterly. You do meetings with all other integrators throughout the country and multiple countries, because even my last trip, they had people there from other countries as well. So it's just great to be around people, even with ALA, being around people that do what you do. It's great because like Tom said, it's lonely at the top. So when he goes to his mastermind classes or his summits and things like that, he's around people that do what you do. Because a lot of times here, when you're in the day-to-day with other team members, they don't get it. They don't understand what it is that you're doing all day long. they just say, oh, you're busy, but no one really gets it. You have no one to really talk to about stuff that goes on in the office. So, when I go to ALA meetings or I go to the EOS Integrator stuff, just hearing people dealing with the same stuff and having a soundboard to be able to go back to at those conventions or classes, or even here once you're back, because you stay connected with them and you make friendships and stuff like that. So
yeah, right. So what you're hammering on is the importance of peer group. Yeah. Right. That's why, Jules, I send you to the Legal Marketing Association stuff, right? And for me, I'm attending 6 masterminds between now and April of next year. Right now, my calendar is booked from September 9th all the way through to April.
Yeah.
Like 2 a month. I'm getting on a plane, flying all around the country to do these masterminds, to be in the room, in every room, with the best, the brightest, the biggest that I can learn from, right? Janira, how many hours have you spent outside of work studying for the ALA class certifications?
Probably hundreds, and probably just thousands in general over books I've read and, different things like that. We've gone more in an EOS focus, but I still have the paperwork and the stuff for the CLM classes. So I've done a ton of just work reading those and reviewing
Certified
those.
Legal Manager classes as well. The more I invest in you, right, Janira? Well, both of you actually, but the more I invest in you, the more I can let go of the vine and just kind of do what I'm meant to do at the highest level, right? It just builds more competent leadership in the firm that I can then trust to run things in my absence. I mean, when I went away to Europe, I didn't call the office at all for 3 weeks.
Right.
Firm did great. Firm is thriving. I go away hiking in the mountains for a week or 2. Same thing. I don't need to check in. You got it. And our leadership team is kind of shaping up that way. And I'm excited about that.
Yep.
So what do you think is probably one of the biggest benefits that you see right now in terms of you working with the organization? Like you mentioned the culture and the management team. So just expand on that a little bit.
I just think the culture that has been built here is fantastic. We just have a great team overall. Like everyone really just gets along. Everyone's very respectful. Everyone comes in, they do their jobs. And it's a nice atmosphere to be in. I think as we continue to hire, every hire I feel like almost gets better and better that we make. Just stellar rock star type of talent. And the leadership team, I think, just works so well together. We are 6 people, I believe, now in total. Tom is the only man on the leadership team. All other 5 are female.
Tomorrow. We have a managing attorney starting. She's going to be in the first leadership meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, yep.
Libby.
So that put us at 7, 6 of which are female. And I think we just together work so well as a unit. We really mesh very well. No one's afraid to speak up in those meetings. And I think that's what's really important is the trust is there. So people, even if you're talking about somebody else in the leadership meeting who's on that call and just being open, honest, and being able to have that communication really allows us to grow. And then when the team sees us doing that, I think that's what allows them to have trust in us as well and be able to come to us and do stuff. And that's really what allows, I think, the firm to propel.
Right. And what's awesome about a leadership team where I'm the only male is there's no egos, right? I think that's what sets apart female leadership from male leadership. I was reading a study that, I'm going to get it wrong, but there was a study where men overestimate their abilities and will overstate their abilities in a room full of people. Whereas females, it's exactly the opposite. Women, it's exactly the opposite. I have all these killer leaders on my team, all women, and they're all humble. They're all like, if they were all guys, forget it. It would be like a testosterone fest that I would have to literally, I would lose my mind. And it's so nice. We do these leadership meetings. They keep me on point. They keep me on track. I'm the hard one to corral, obviously. It's my personality. I think that one of the biggest needle movers I've ever cited is the firm culture as far as why we got here. But I think that you, Janira, and Jules, but you have been tremendously helpful in helping me spearhead the cultural movement of the firm in the direction it was going in. And you are the embodiment of it. We've gotten to a point where you just blind faith moved ahead with really hard work you had to do. And because you put in the work, it's really showing. I mean, I had to do personal development as well. Talk about the work with the industrial side, because we talk about it openly. We tell people about it, but go into that a little bit, because we were having really significant communication issues, Janira and I, because we're both hard-headed, we're both opinionated.
I can only imagine.
And we had to go to therapy together. Call it marriage counseling for the work.
Couples therapy.
for marriage counseling for couples therapy for work, right?
Yeah.
Talk about it, Jay.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so it basically came at the same time where Patrick told Tom he needed to hire from me. And like Tom said, we were just constantly butting heads because we're just the same person. So, and I think I didn't understand, like, I think I treated work and our relationship the way I would treat any other relationship. Like, I had to be right. I had to have the last word. I always had something to say, so we met the industrial psych and I started going to her weekly. And I would kind of go through what was happening at work and what I would do and what I would say. And she would tell me, well, can't do that. Tom's the boss. Like, you always have the last word or speak over him. And she just really taught me to understand and respect what the different roles are. And I think that's really where I learned a lot of the boundaries that I spoke about before. And she was just instrumental. So I went to her for probably 2 years, I would say. Sometimes by myself, sometimes Tom would go in.
Which was always fun for me. Not taking time out of my day to go to marriage counseling for work-related scenario.
I'm sure you needed it too.
You hush up.
But I think it just really, she taught me a lot, and I definitely grew from that experience. It also, obviously didn't just help here, but also bled into my personal life, and I was able to see it on the personal side within my household and relationships outside of work as well. So I think it was very helpful, and anybody, I think I recommend it now to anybody because I've seen it also change other people's lives as well. So,
well, honestly, money well spent, because I have to say, Janira, you've definitely helped, just from what I heard you just explain, you've helped me understand, I guess, those certain boundaries and have shared those teachings with me as well, because I think we're both in a position where we both do have a personal relationship with Tom as well. So just for me and growing in my role, you've helped kind of guide me in certain ways and show me the ropes kind of. So,
right.
So there's two things that I would tell anybody out there that's considering this type of investment. One, people have to want to do it, right? Like, I gave you an option. I said, look, Patrick's telling me the business needs this. I need a higher level of management. I will gladly hire somebody. You can stay in your role, but they're going to be above you. That was a trigger for you because you were like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I want to be the one to do this. I said, okay, but then you got to do what we're asking. So one, somebody's got to want to do it, right? And that's also evidenced by buy-in. So just so I'm clear for anybody that's listening to this, I pay half the cost when I am making that type of investment. Somebody, they pay the other half, right? And you did that, right? And you did that for the 2-year period. And that's the same for anybody that's gone through that process with the industrial psych. Because otherwise it's not buy-in. It's the same as any other coaching. Like all of the attorneys right now are going through marketing coaching. I only pay half. They have to buy in literally in order to be vested in it, right? So that's one. Two, you didn't buy in for the first 6 months. Most people don't, by the way, in terms of working with the industrial psych.
Yeah.
Can I tell the story?
You can tell the story.
All right. So we go to a setting like this, her and I sitting on the couch. I'm like, I can't believe I do this every week. I'm going with her, and the therapist says, so what do you think, Tom? I go, you really want to know what I think? I go, I don't think she's buying it at all. I think I'm wasting my time and my money. And she was like, I agree. Yeah, that's right. You look at Janira just now. So the woman's name is Terry. She's awesome. She's worked with our company forever. Mm-hmm. And Terry turned to Janira and said, so now what? You ain't fooling anybody. Now what?
Wow,
so
what was going on?
She asked me, she said, now what? I said, well, I'm hiring somebody else. Mm-hmm. Right, Jay? Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
I brought in. I don't think I even realized that I wasn't buying it. I've never done anything like that before. Mm-hmm. So I guess I was just going through the motions and not really learning anything from it. So,
and listen, I learned from it, right? Like, everybody's obstinate when they go to that type of setting, especially in a couple setting like me and her. So we go there, but most couples go there. I'm using couples in air quotes because me and her are not a couple. We're a work couple. She's happily married. I'm happily married. We know each other's spouses. We all get together.
We'll just make that clear.
We're making it very clear. Janira and I just work together, but we're a work couple. Mm-hmm. And what we figured out is, man, if we could learn to communicate in ways that work for each other, it became so powerful. And now, I mean, God, we haven't had a dust up, even a minor disagreement in how long?
Years now.
Years, yeah. Right? Years and years. I forget how long. And we've been so effective because what I also, and it's also, we've kind of let go of control in certain areas, right? So I don't need to control. If Janira says something, I don't need to second guess it. I don't need to make a decision on it. I don't need to know what she's weighing in on. Mm-hmm. And similarly, sometimes she trusts me to make a decision now.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. But in all seriousness, like, I also learned a tremendous amount about communication and things I needed to do better, right? So it was great for both of us, and we were both very vested in it because I believed in her, and I had invested significant resources into Janira's development that I wasn't willing to just move on and then take a gamble on somebody from the outside if I knew it could be her. And it was. I mean, she's just, Patrick says all the time, every firm needs a Janira. 90% of them are not going to ever be able to find it.
I was just going to say, every business needs a Janira.
Listen, I'm the first to say that. I'm the first to say that. I don't want your head to get any bigger, Janira, but you know, right?
That was a huge pivoting point for, I think, the both of you, was you going to her and being like, I'm either going to hire somebody above you or you step up and take full
ownership.
Yeah,
full ownership of what you want to do.
Ownership of the role. And it's funny because you've had that kind of conversation with multiple people here.
You included.
Yeah, definitely.
So look, here's the thing, right? It all sounds straightforward and easy, right? Janira didn't put a dollar amount on it. It's tens of thousands of dollars I've invested in her. Tens of thousands, probably well over $50,000 or more in your personal development. And she put in the time, and she made money investments in herself. All after school ended, all while she was working. And she didn't come to me and look to me to solve it. She didn't say, we just said, this is mutually beneficial, and here's what we need to do to get there. And she did it.
Yeah.
Right? And too often we interview people or we've talked to people and they're like, well, I want my boss to do this. I want that. Like, real players do what it takes. Do what it takes. If I had said, I'm not investing in anything, she still would have gotten to where she is on her own.
Yeah.
Right? But I would not have been around for the benefit of it. The business would not have the benefit of Janira. This business would not look the same without a Janira here. Right? So.
And like you always say, if it's important to you, you make the time. You know what I mean? So you got to find the time to do it.
And find the money. Right? Like, how many times we hear people like, all you have to do is this, this, and this. I can't.
I'm not going to do that.
I don't have the money. I'm not going to do. Well, I've been saying this new thing on LinkedIn all the time, which is we do things others don't, which is why we see things and results that others won't.
Right.
Right. I mean, God, if I had to quantify it, it would probably be ballpark $50,000 to $60,000 or $70,000 in training. More than that, probably, with all the conventions we go to together and stuff. Probably closer to $100,000 in investment in you. Right? Janira Alek. That's a long last name.
Yeah. Nobody wants to know how to spell it.
It's a long last name.
It's a long one.
$100,000 easy. And that's not including your salary, your health benefits, all that stuff.
But the return on investment has been significant.
Look at
she runs your whole office, basically.
Look at where we are.
I'm going to say here, Janira runs this firm.
So shift gears for a second. One of the things that Janira does, similar to what I do, is spots trends. Jay, what are the trends that you're seeing in the legal industry and how they are impacting law firms and legal services?
I definitely think culture is the way to go. And I think that's the reason people come to us. They love the culture. Everyone raves about it. People are referring other people to us. But so many firms are they're okay with turnover. You know, they don't care. Like, if there's an issue, they won't take the time to sit down and have conversations with people. They will just literally fire them and put another warm body in the seat and then wonder why 6 months later they're in the same exact position. Where we do truly invest in our staff and our team here, and we take that time. We get to know them. We do significant onboarding with our team members now. I think it makes a world of difference, just the way we treat everybody.
And there's also such a high standard here that I feel like in a lot of businesses, not even including in the legal field, but businesses in general, just have this lack of standard for their team members and just let people, like you said, like if there's one issue, just say goodbye and turn them over. And there's just no.
This is more intentional leadership, right? What we do is intentional, right? It may not look like it from people who aren't in all of our meetings or people here. But again, we try to keep everybody abreast of what's going on, right? But when I say culture is king, I mean culture is king, which means somebody can be putting $1 million a year on a sheet and still get fired if they're not in alignment with our core values. Period. It does not matter to me, right? I will say to Janira at a leadership meeting or you, we need to vote on this. We present it, we vote. If that person's out, they're out, right? It's intentional leadership. What you're talking about, or what we've experienced with other law firms, is, you know, if there's 3 partners in a firm, one partner comes in and he's a rainmaker and he'll be out and he schedules some marketing stuff. And then you'll have another partner and he'll come in and work on some motion stuff. I come in, I do the same thing. Every day I have 3 things on my thing. Janira comes in. She's got a set protocol of what she needs to do in a given day as my integrator, legal administrator, right? It's intentional, right? We do intentional leadership and we do individualized management. Individualized meaning we look at people's discs, right? We have other people in the office we'll have on here, but I always use Jeff as an example. Jeff's disc, he's an independent guy, right? 20 years as a PI attorney. I don't go to Jeff. If Jeff wants me, if he wants input from me as a lawyer, if he wants feedback, then he comes to me, but I'm not going to micromanage Jeff. That's individualized leadership and management, right? And Jeff has it. Jeff knows what he's doing, right? He's a great team member. So yeah, I think that she hit it on the head. My main job when I come in is culture, is marketing, culture, and financial diagnostics and financial management. Those are my 3 things. That's it. That's what I do every day.
And if you go off track, Janira will put you right back on.
Listen, many times she's like, you're not where you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. Get out, go do what you got to do. Right.
And you got to know your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, the rest doesn't even matter, because there's some places that, you know, you talk to them and they're like they'll talk about something that they're doing or initiative in the firm. And I'm like, oh, well, how is that working? What is this? You know, I ask them certain questions and they have no idea. They don't have a way to rate it, a way to judge it, a way to know if it's working or not working. And to me, that's just crazy. Like here, we don't micromanage anybody, and it's all because it's in the numbers. Everybody's got metrics. You know, we just know by each week and by the end of the month whether things are working or not working, and we move quickly to fix it.
Yeah, we meet with the CFO monthly. Janira is in charge of taking over. Like the P&L, profit and loss statement, is prepared by the financial department and the CFO. But Janira is owning it, right? So if there's a red number somewhere, we diagnose it.
Yeah.
And we fix that real fast, right? Similarly, if we see a spike in green, then we go, oh, this is working. Let's diagnose that and see how we do more of that and less of this, right? And so it's a running joke in the office. Janira is always like, I hate numbers, right? It's like it's just not something that she considers one of her strengths, but she doesn't have to get into the micro. She just needs to know the trends and the macro diagnosis. What are the numbers telling her, which she's been by my side doing this for so long that we can pinpoint any directional change. Good, great, keep doing, amplify. Negative, all right, let's cut, let's modify, let's change, and reduce that type of behavior or trend, whatever's going on, right?
And you don't have to know the answers, you just have to know the questions.
There you go. Say that one more time. Wait, that's a quote. Say it again.
You don't have to know the answers, you just have to know the questions.
Good questions. Good questions. It's no different than doing this podcast, no different than doing a high-stakes deposition. And listening, right? Listen to what the P&L's telling you. Listen to what the smarter people are telling you. Like, I try to surround myself with people smarter than me. So we have a fractional CFO. Guy is great. Nicest day is long. He's going to be a guest on the podcast. I often ask him, what are the numbers telling you? I want to hear from my financial guy. What are the numbers telling him? And then we talk about it, Janira, myself, you, at the leadership meeting, say, what are the numbers telling us? Are the intake numbers up and down? Is Google LSA up and down? Up or down? So we look at key metrics and listen for what those numbers tell us. They're talking to us all the time, right? And the numbers are just a quantification of the market forces. So key performance indicators are telling us, are our settlement numbers up or down? Are the number of cases going to trial up or down? Are the number of intakes up or down? Right? Are the number of medical providers we have up or down? Number of no-fault files up or down? These are all key performance indicators for us. So she's masterful at helping me navigate trends. And we often sit behind closed doors to navigate, along with my wife, Jen, who does the financial, and Dan, to navigate overall global picture.
I don't think people realize either ownership. It's not just ownership. You have to own the wins, but you have to also own the losses. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they say they own something, they own their position, they own whatever it is that they're handling. You can't just say, oh, we did great, that's me, I did that. Something goes wrong or the team goes wrong, the department goes wrong. You have to own that too. And you have to start from yourself and then figure it out from there down.
Jocko Willink and Gary Vaynerchuk are famous for saying one thing that Patrick's always beat into my head. wins are the team, losses are on me, right? So when I talk to team members, I'm like, look, I want everybody taking extreme ownership of their position. So it's the pointer finger or the thumb, right? If somebody's sitting across from me and they're like, well, so-and-so didn't do this, they're pointing, they're blaming, like that. That's not ownership. Like Janira said, is owning the losses, taking the L's and learning from them. That's real ownership, right? And to be able to do that in a way where your ego is not in the way, that's real mature, emotional, intelligent leadership. And where Janira has been so important and integral is she's setting the tone for the rest of the leadership team of don't tell Tom what you think he wants to hear. Tell him what he needs to hear. Be direct and honest, right? Because that's what makes me better. I don't need to surround myself with people that are like, you're so great.
You don't need yes men.
No, yes ladies, right?
Yes ladies.
What I need is people that tell it like it is. Janira, I go to her, I'm like, tell me like it is, Jay. Is this me? And I want that from everybody on that team, right? So.
And I can say the leadership team, everybody pretty much will tell you straight up how they feel.
Yes, we do.
It's the roughest hour and a half of my week every Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
It's my favorite hour and a half.
Yeah, I know.
I love Tuesdays.
So, Jay, I was asking you what achievements you're most proud of and why in terms of what you've achieved career-wise.
I would just say where I'm at now, and I could see how much I've grown over the years, and I could see a difference in myself, like I said, personally and professionally, just the way I interact with everybody here. I know there was a time where people didn't even want to talk to me in the office. I'd come in, I wouldn't be in the best of moods, just wanted to do my job, didn't want to be bothered with what was going on. And now I make sure, for everybody to be comfortable and want to come in and talk to me, and I make sure that I'm always in a good mood and friendly. And I think the way I just make decisions now as well is just so different than the way I made them before. Again, our relationship now has just grown so much, I think, between me and Tom and just the entire firm and everybody here. And I see, and I can see the results. It pays off in your personal life as well. So my whole life now is completely different from where it was, say, 10 years ago. So even with ALA, I was so hesitant to join that. And I'm not someone who likes to talk to people outside of people that I know. I usually stay within my bubble. But even now, I'm in separate group chats with some of the girls at ALA, and we text each other. And I sit on the board now of ALA. And so it's just completely different than where I was 10 years ago. I would have never done anything like that.
Yeah, you've cited a bunch of stuff, right, in this podcast so far. The amount of work you've done and all the investment that we've made in your development, your investment, my investment. What would you say if you had to pick out the number one needle mover in terms of your professional career, professional development? What would you say is your number one needle mover?
Like what changed everything for me?
Yeah, what a needle mover for me is anything that dramatically changes your career trajectory, your personal trajectory, or your business trajectory.
Probably, for me, it would probably be three different things. I think one, the faith that you had in me, knowing that I could do it. Second would be the coaching with the industrial psych, for sure. And I definitely think that Jocko book did it for me too. The Extreme Ownership book really, I feel like, changed a lot of things for me, for sure.
That's awesome. And you know what? It's all, what I try to do with this podcast is actionable value to anybody that's listening to this. So I think one of the things that comes along too is that there are firms that will bring people up, right? Or make minor investments here and there in people. I think anybody that's listening to this that owns a law firm, one, if you have that faith and belief in somebody, definitely sit down and foster the relationship. Think about it. Have a conversation like I've had with you, or I've had with you, Juliet, right? We sat down, we had that conversation at that conference we were at. I forget where we were at when we had
Atlanta.
We were in Atlanta at a hotel at a conference.
It's definitely a pivotal moment.
But here was the other big thing. Don't be cheap. Don't be an a-hole. Don't be a cheap a-hole. If you own a firm, you got to pay people. Otherwise, firms are going to come along and try to poach somebody like my Janira. Nobody's going to poach you, right? Because I'm not going to let that happen. And nobody's going to poach you because I'm not going to let it happen. So you got to be willing to also make that upfront cash investment as well once they do start to grow into the role, right? And have those frank conversations because it's hard, right? We have a personal relationship. We still talk about money, right? Still talk about money all the time with you, Jules. It's all you ever talk about. So I think that that's important, that if a firm owner is listening to this, maybe you don't have somebody in your ranks that qualifies to do it. Have somebody from the outside, a business coach, kind of make the evaluation for you independently, and then go with your gut too. If you're a good reader of people, different story. Like, I'm a great reader of people.
Yeah.
I know if I should be making investments in people. They haven't always worked out, but for the most part, they have. And anybody I've done it with has grown tremendously because they bought in. They showed me they were willing to buy in.
And also, this podcast episode had a lot of great value for anybody who works for another business, but kind of just expects to come to work every day, do the 9 to 5, and make this amount of money that they might have in their head. But Janira put in hours and hours of work and spent years and thousands of dollars just on her own personal growth, which then, you know, as she grew personally, she grew
financially.
Well, I was going to say she grew professionally and financially. Yeah. And it just goes to show that, like, anybody can reach the levels they want to reach, but are you willing to put in the extra hours? Because, you know, Janira's here 8 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday.
Most days 6. She's usually one of the last people to leave. And it's not because I ask her to, it's just how she's made.
Yes.
Right? She waits till for her, it's about, can she leave with things the way they're supposed to be left off, not just punch and run. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a point worth hammering home because I say it all the time. Everybody wants to be a player till they realize what players really have to do, right? And I put a quote up on LinkedIn again. I was listening to Ice Cube, who I know you love, right, Jay? Mm-hmm. He was on Joe Rogan. And he said he was talking to a professional player who said, they don't play me to play the game. I would play for free, right? Playing in front of 20,000 people, that's fun. I get paid to do the shit that no one wants to do. The reps, the practice, the work, right? Don't look at Janira, who's done thousands of hours of work, and knock her. She didn't just become Janira overnight. She built herself into the Terminator of legal administrators. That's what I saw in her, and that's why I invested in her. And you brought up a great point, ROI. Do I think I wasted $75,000 to $100,000 on investment in Janira over almost 20 years? She's been with me, 19 years it'll be this year. Hell no, I would do it again tomorrow in one lump sum.
Yeah.
Shit, that money's made me millions of dollars in revenue because of the leader she is, right? Look at the culture we have. That's her, right?
A lot of people don't realize that too. They come in and they just think, oh, I'm just going to work that 8 to 5 and I'm going to go home. And every year they want more money. They want more this. They want more, flexibility. They want all these things, but they don't want to do anything extra to earn it or to continue growing on their own,
Yeah.
And it's a value proposition, right? I tell people all the time, don't think in terms of pay, think in terms of value. If you bring value, added value every day, every year, you won't have to ask for money, right? And team members either get that or they don't. Now, I'm fortunate. I'm surrounded by people that get that. They don't just sit here, unless you want just the cost of living, right? You want a 3%, 4% increase, great. That's not what Janira gets. That's not what you've gotten, Jules.
Yeah, no.
Right? You're just coming off the heels of a pretty significant increase, if I can put that out there. Yeah. I do think that the success of a law firm will be capped at the professional and personal development of the leadership team, right? So that's why innovation and improvement is one of our core values, because look at Janira, thousands of hours. She could have been out socializing, drinking with friends, out with her husband, out with her kids, and she wasn't, right? She wanted certain things, and she's got certain things now because of the work she put in.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. That's huge. And now she does whatever she wants. Now she does literally whatever she wants, right? She's got the life she wants. And I'm blessed because I have people all around me like that in my office. And I made that investment. You know, that's why I'm training all of the attorneys that wanted to do the marketing. I said that, everybody, look, if you work in a PI firm, a big chunk of your revenue personally can come from personal injury cases you bring in. But I'm realizing that even though I offer a big percentage of work they bring in for the PI attorneys and for all the attorneys, that nobody was trained on how to do it. So I offered the training and I came up with a plan with Patrick Wilson again. And we're teaching all of the attorneys how to market, right? But they got to buy in, right? There's a cost, there's a time cost, there's a work. They got to do the work after hours. It's not a during hours thing. And financially, they're paying in. It's not a ton. It's not a big amount, but it's the principle of you got to buy in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes people in my organization so special. Like, we joke around a lot, Jules, all the time. But man, you work hard on yourself. You work hard on your professional development. And God forbid I ever said I'm hiring somebody over you.
Oh my God.
You would do the same thing I did.
I literally, when you were telling the story,
taking
Janira,
10 classes.
I mean, that's also kind of a conversation we had in Atlanta, tying over to that personal conversation that we had about my professional development. And then one of your colleagues said to you, you should think of hiring somebody in between you and Jules. And I looked at you, I was like, that's not happening.
Right.
That is not going to happen.
But again, I'm willing to invest in you. You've shown me tremendous skill, right? And even though you're young, I mean, I've had marketing people that are a lot older than you. I've had marketing people that went to school for certain things. I know when I know, as long as you stay on the rails, right?
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Like, Janira was hardcore. Once she decided to buy in, everything changed. Everything changed. Same thing with Carissa. We'll probably have Carissa on at some point down the road, who heads up the No Fault Silo, right?
Probably when she's here in September.
Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do an interview with her. But I think that for me, why I think the podcast is so important is that anybody that's listening, if they don't have a Janira, they need to look for a Janira. And if you don't even know what that looks like, then you need to hire a business coach, because you're running chaotic, which 98% of the law firm stories that we hear are just crazy, insane chaos. Every interview, people get on. I interviewed a guy today. I really liked him for the settlement negotiator role. He didn't stay at his last position. He was a talented producer, and he didn't stay because it was too much chaos for the guy.
Yeah.
The quickest way to build a C team of players is by crushing the A players with bad or non-existent systems, bad hires, allowing toxicity of any kind, right?
Yep.
And, you know, Janira and I are real swift with all of this stuff at this point. We love our people. We demand excellence. And we have a system for routing out toxicity that's immediate and swift and not tolerated at all, right? And we stand by it.
Yeah.
We stand by it. Culture is number one.
Yeah.
So if you had any question you could ask me, what would it be, Jay?
I would say, how did you know I could do it?
That's a good question. How did I know? It was just a gut feeling I had that, you know, when we first started working together, you were different, right? I spotted that in you. I saw raw talent. I saw skill. But I also, a big part for me was loyalty and trust, where I was like, you know, I knew I could invest in you. And I didn't know that we would do what we're doing now, right? Like, I don't think either of us would have ever pictured we're on 40 people. We're looking for a bigger office space again after outgrowing this office space.
We outgrew this office space in like 3 years.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, but I could not have envisioned it. But it's like being, you know, it's like my wife, right? Like, you don't know what it's going to start out day one, but you know somebody is your ride or die. You know somebody's your foxhole person, right? My wife is like that. You're like that. Jules is like that. So I surround myself with, and Carissa, everybody on the leadership team is like that right now. And so for me, that's probably the biggest thing. I've got this loyalty and trust that, but I've also earned it and I've rewarded it, right? When I've made the statement to anybody I've hired that, look, it's not just about us making money. I mean, I've stood by that, right? You make good money. We won't talk about what you make, but you make good money. Jules, making good money, right? So it's putting your money where your mouth is, literally. Too many lawyers, I'm going to tell a story, but Janira tells a story of a guy that she worked for back in the day. Didn't give raises, didn't give bonuses, and a kid drives up in a brand new high-end vehicle. How do you think that looks to the rest of the team? Oh, money's so tight. Kid's got a brand new $1,000 lease. Come on, like, that's like
joke.
So think about the A players like a Janira, right? It makes it easy for me to hire people like that, right? So how I knew, I just had a great feel for the person you really were beneath the surface. I got to know your mom. I got to know your family. And I don't know. I was like, look, I knew, to sum it up, what Terry used to tell us, the industrial psych, was this. Regardless of whatever frustrations we have in our working relationship, I knew I would never find anybody as loyal as you or as ride or die as you. And so for me, that was something I really valued because I'm that loyal, right? I'm that loyal too, unless somebody burns me, right? So I just have never burned you. I've never hurt you that way. And anything I've ever said, I've done everything I could in my power to make happen, right? So just you showing the tremendous person that you are is what made me say, look, if I invest in this, it'll come back. It'll come back. We do that exercise, My Great Life, with Atticus that I used to do. One of my lifelong legacies was to be an impactful leader. If on my deathbed, people would say, oh my God, like he changed things for me, right? And I've always tried to be an agent of change for people. Bring out the best in the people that are here, right? Not change people like I'm like playing God. Bring out the best in people. Create an environment where people can go, I never thought I could do this. And I can here, right? And that's where working with anybody that's on the team, inadvertently, I didn't even realize I was actually creating that legacy for myself, right? Like,
yeah, you do that all the time with people.
Like giving people the tools, the opportunities, right? That's what I've always hoped for anyway. What would you say was one of the more challenging parts of your current mindset or role right now?
Specifically with Tom.
I would say
You're going to cut that out, but you know what I'm talking about.
So we joke around a lot in the office and we call it PTSD.
I hate that name, man. I hate that name. Really, I'm going to let you say it. I'm going to keep it in.
Really, it just goes to show as much as, we say I've grown or even Jules has grown since she's been here, but Tom as well. Tom is a completely different person than when I first started 19 years ago. We've grown together. And when he says he's learned to let go of the vine because trust has been built, it's 100% true because he was so held on to that vine back in the day where, me or his wife who does our financials, like now we do certain things and we know we could just do it without checking with Tom, but we still check with Tom sometimes. And we're learning to let go as well because Tom would react differently back in the day to certain situations. And where now it's like, all right, do we go to him? Do we not go to him? Do we tell him? Do we not tell him? It builds up in our mind because we don't know how he's going to react. And that's why we always joke around about the PTSD function of it. But it just goes to show that everybody grows, everybody changes, and we've all done that together. So again, Tom's a different person now, and we're also learning to let go of the vine and understand that he's not who he was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and we have to make those adjustments as well.
I will say that when I started in 2001, I was a kid. They don't teach you leadership in law school, right? So you try to find role models. There aren't a lot out there. But when you don't have role models of leadership, what do? You watch movies, and you think that you're going to get leadership from that. Or if you're lucky, you might have a mentor. I was lucky. I had a great mentor. But again, no formal leadership mentors, right? So I wasn't near what I am today. And the problem is they know the old Tom. They know the old hard charging, 7 days a week, 80 hours a week, and caught up in every single aspect of the dirt and the weeds. And that's not who I am anymore, right? So you'd say it's pretty challenging?
I think it was challenging. I don't think it is now, but
now it's for my wife now.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more maybe fast forward for where she's at right now. But again, that's an opportunity for us to learn too, because now we look at it and go, okay, well, Tom doesn't sweat this stuff, then why are we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It helps us to grow as well. So
I mean, you both have grown so much. I mean, honestly, I used to be a little intimidated of the both of you. Now I'm a little more open, but...
Well, look, it's just a cold, hard reality. We want to go to an 8-figure law firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to deal with $165 issues,
What
right?
got you here won't get you there.
Right, and who got you here won't get you there,
yeah,
right?
100%.
So that's why we're a constant, fast evolving right now. We're going through like this crazy fast evolution where that's kind of a common analysis. Is what got us to this place going to get us to the next place, or do we need something else? Do we need another layer of management, that type of stuff?
That's a big thing for leaders to realize as well, I think, too, that, they might have what they consider to be a Janira in their firm, who they've been there for so long, and they think, oh, they can do it. But again, that person just might have gotten them there, but may not get them to the next step, or anybody on their team member. They always have to evaluate that.
Right, and they have to evaluate the desire. Does that person get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it, right? So you might have a great office manager and have 7 or 8 people, but you get to 25 and you need multiple layers of middle managers in there, right? And that same person, if you sit them down and go, do you want to grow? No, I don't want to grow. No, I don't want more responsibility. No, I don't want more people under me. And no, I don't want people over me. That person might have to leave your firm if they don't want people over them. right? Because they don't want to grow with the firm. So I think that's a great point that you bring up because she's willing to keep growing. You're willing to keep growing. So you can do that. Not everybody wants to, right? I often now have the conversation. I said it to when we were talking about the building and I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, so here's the plan. We need more space. I probably need 15,000 square feet in order to execute on our 5 and 10 year plan. And that was kind of hard for her because she's like, man, we just never stopped growing. I'm like, I know. Like, that's just how I'm built.
The name of the game.
Grow or die. Grow or die. That's what John Morgan says. And there's big firms out there that are trying to figure out how to take the business away from us, right? From the smaller and mid-sized law firms. So you just got to keep growing. You just got to keep growing. And we have a competitive edge. We have multiple competitive edges, and we're going to keep executing on it. So anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
This was a good episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Super excited that you came on. Thank you so much. And to anybody that's listening to this, again, you can find us anywhere online. Just Google TonaLaw. You find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever podcasts are distributed. And we'll put some note links in for ALA and how you can reach out to Janira online on LinkedIn. She's very active as well. And everybody should get a Janira. Yeah. Everybody should have a Janira. You're awesome, Jay. Thank you.
Everybody needs a Janira.
Everybody needs a Janira. So, and they're out there. It's just you may have to build them from scratch or really search long and hard because you're a rare diamond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Peace.